The Arlington Hotel Fire, read from the Petoskey Evening News, June 19, 1915. The new Arlington Hotel, the largest summer hotel in northern Michigan except the Grand at Mackinac Island, was completely destroyed by fire early Saturday morning during the worst early season windstorm this section has ever experienced. The wind was blowing the waves clear over the lighthouse and coming from the west off the open lake, struck the hotel with full force, and the firemen could do little. The flames were whipped across the top of the building, and once an opening had been burned through the north wall, and the flames were driven quickly through the corridors and rooms on the east side especially. The alarm was sounded at about 4:10 o'clock Saturday morning, and within a few minutes the whole fire department was on the job. Lines of hose were quickly laid into the building, but like the Imperial fire of some years ago, the wooden building offered too much to feed the flames, and nothing could be done. The fire evidently caught around the elevator shaft and on the first floor, and had no doubt been burning some little time before being discovered. The fire burned rapidly, and within an hour and a half the hotel was burned flat to the ground, and Petoskey's largest summer place had gone up in smoke. The heat was terrible on the east side, and firemen could hardly stand to fight the flames there. It was so hot, the rails on the southbound track of the GR&I were warped out of place. The fire spread, of course, first to the old part of the building on the east side, and more slowly to the west, and lastly to the wing on the north, burning everything in the whole building, which was completely furnished and ready for the summer season. The hotel had been opened a few days before for the purpose of cleaning, redecorating, and painting it, and placing it in shape for summer. Several Polish girls and young women from Chicago had just arrived to do the cleaning, and had just nicely commenced their work this week. Painters had several ladders and some paint in buckets in the building, and everything used in the building while it was in full operation in summer was still there. The new Arlington Hotel was erected in 1881 to 82 by H.O. Rose and Company, and was opened for the first time to the public July 7, 1882. James R. Hayes of the Wayne Hotel in Detroit was one of the first managers of the hotel, which was then widely advertised as a haven of relief for hay fever sufferers. The hotel was not then the fine large building which burned Saturday morning, but a large structure of 3 stories, which faced the railroad. The hotel passed into the hands of Mr. Peck through purchase about 25 years ago, and in 1897 to 98 into a structure containing 230 some odd guest rooms, the largest lobby and parlors of any hotel in this region, and furnished with the very best of the time. Shortly after the close of the season 4 years ago, the north wing, containing the dining rooms, was burned, but the firemen succeeded in saving the hotel proper. The hotel has been successfully conducted every season, and Mr. Peck was just getting it in readiness to open early in July for the season of 1915. Everyone in this section is familiar with the location of the hotel, its arrangements, etc. Its broad porches were one of the first signs to greet the incoming boats from the west, and it has stood as Petoskey's largest and finest strictly summer hotel for a quarter of a century. It did not take long for the fire to make it too hot for the firemen inside the building, where the first lines of hose were laid, and shortly after being driven from inside, it became too hot for them outside, and their attention was directed toward saving the buildings around, which were threatened. Hose were strung from 3 hydrants, but with the wind blowing as it was, the structure being so dry and inflammable, it appears as though no fire department could have saved it. The telegraph wires were burned, and the cable of wires was also burned. The electric cables leading to Bayview were cut to prevent any possible danger. The heat and flames driven across the tracks burned the leaves from the trees in the park, and the ties of the railroad track were also partly burned. The heat expanded the rails and caused the track to warp all out of shape, and water turned on the ties cooled the rails and left them in bad shape. A crew of men were placed at work as soon as the fire burned down, and had the track repaired by 9 o'clock. The furniture was of course worth much more, and the loss on it much more than on the building. Costly rugs, chairs, tables, cafe fixtures and appointments, curtains, linen, silver, bedding, and guest room equipment cost a mint of money, and all were burned. The firefighting equipment from the west side was hitched behind William McDermott's automobile and brought to the scene of the fire, and the men were quickly at work. There were 12 persons sleeping in the old part of the building on the east side along the tracks, and none of them heard the fire or smelled the smoke until the alarm had been sounded. W. H. Delaney of Detroit and the housekeeper, Miss Jordan of Chicago, made a tour of inspection of the office and ground floor of the building at about 11 o'clock to see that all lights were out, and say they noticed no fire in the kitchen, nor any evidence of any possible chance of a fire. George Houts, the painter, had a number of large ladders and some paint in the building as he was painting the porch. He lost all of these. There was not a large crowd considering the size of the fire, but the wind was blowing so hard that many did not even hear the alarm. The building was partly insured, but not near enough insurance was carried to cover the loss.